Hello, everybody. Hope everything is all right. Let's move this here. Get this a little closer. There we go. So, hello. Do-do-do-do-do.
In the way that he spoke, even though no one had ever.
That's WRMI 15770. We're going to talk about something that I got today. A little cheap radio. Another radio for the elderly, according to their information. So we're going to talk about that in a few moments. I hope everybody's going all right. Oh, man. So here we go. Okay, that looks nice. That looks perfect here. And we can start our little Saturday radio time. What else do we have? What else do we have? Okay. Let's check out here if there's anything special in the pirate sphere. 6925 upper sideband, apparently. Let's check out.
In their sin.
Not hearing anything. So checking out a few little pirate stuff, but nothing heard. So hey, everybody, welcome aboard. We'll continue checking that out as time permits. We are live from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. This is the Shortwave radio stream, and of course, we are here to have fun with radio, talk about radio, and just enjoy a few hours together. I would like to just mention a little something. We were supposed to have a VHF UHF show tomorrow. We'll have to postpone that to next Sunday because something came up that I have to attend. So I won't be at home at 21 UTC as supposed to. So we'll just I'll push it next Sunday. I think it's going to be the best thing. And that's going to be, sorry about that, but a little something that I just need to attend to help out. Okay, so my name is Gilles. I'm located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. This is the Shortwave radio stream. We talk about radio, have fun with radio, and just enjoy, like I said, a few moments together. And we often say that the hobby, it's a very solitary hobby here, and by having these moments together, well, it's kind of cool. You know, it shows us that we have several people that we can share with and have fun, and it's really, really a cool thing. This show airs twice a week, and that is Saturday at 20 hours Universal Time, Wednesday at 0 hours Universal Time, 7 p.m. Eastern. Don't forget that in a week's time, and on Sunday, March 14th, we are going to change our clocks. Now, in UTC, if you always stay in UTC time, no problem. The show stays at the same UTC time. But it does change the local time if you have your time change. So that means that, for example, starting the week of March 14th, the show will move on to Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern for 0 UTC. And on Saturday, it's going to change to 4 p.m. Eastern for 20 hours UTC. So the time change is going to affect the local time you're listening, not the UTC. UTC stays the same. There's always a mix-up with UTC and regular time because that's the problem. People say, well, oh, UTC changed. No, UTC didn't change. Your reference to it changed. That's your local time changed. UTC is universal, stays the same all the time. The only adjustments they have is these little leap seconds from time to time to make sure that it stays accurate. But if you live your life in UTC, you are okay. And on shortwave radio, I always recommend everybody, stay and live their life in UTC because that's the way you always are ahead of the game. Unfortunately, I see too many posts and so many people, talking about, oh, I was listening to this at 7 p.m. We don't know what that means. Remember that local time has zero use in shortwave and amateur radio because we have no idea what that is at our local place. So if somebody posts, oh, I'll listen to this local 8 p.m., I have no idea what your 8 p.m. is compared to me. It is something that is useless. And so UTC is the only thing you shouldn't even mention in general. When you're listening to shortwave, you shouldn't even mention your local time. You should just mention what UTC it was. Local time can be purely one of the reasons we might just want to talk about it is sometimes because it gives a reference of what time of day local. So, if somebody says, well, it's always, I get that station always at, 8 p.m. Well, we know that, okay, it's an evening thing for you. So maybe that kind of indicates to us that that station, if it broadcasts more than a couple of hours, might be a better evening station, But apart from that, we have to stay in UTC. It's the only reference. I've seen a few people, ask, well, I don't understand. It seems that it's an awful lot of trouble trying to figure out UTC just for radio. And it's actually the other way around. What's an awful lot of trouble is having local time and not knowing what your local time versus my local time is. That is trouble. UTC is not, because once you get used to it, it's fine. And the other thing is, and that I think, a lot of us do it. A lot of people don't do it. I always say your shortwave radio's clock should never be local. It should always be UTC because local time, it's useless. Once again, it's, you got a clock at home probably for that time. You don't need to have anything else. That UTC reference is important. So your radios should have UTC time on their clocks rather than local. And that is going to make it easier for you to know what you're listening to also at the same time. Remember that all the online schedules also have that side to it, is that they are always using UTC to tell you what time to listen to a broadcast. Also, at the end of the month, we're in the last month of the winter schedules, or I'd rather use the B20 schedules because in the Southern Hemisphere, it's technically the summer schedules. So the next schedules, the A21 schedules, are coming up at the end of the month. Last Sunday of March is when the stations change their frequencies for the new season of broadcasting. We have schedules that change twice a year. Understand that, because at the end of the month, if you can't find your favorite station suddenly, well, maybe it changed frequency. Add to insult, we talk about UTC being a reference. For some reason, some stations are stubborn and try to keep their local time for broadcasts. One of them, Radio Romania. And, it's something I never understand, is why an international broadcaster changes 1 hour when time change. You should always stick to UTC, not have that change to your local time, which is weird. But anyway, some stations actually have that change also coming. So my name is Gilles, located in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, northeast part of North America. There's a chat room that you can join, which is really nice, where there's a lot of beautiful people that are friendly and helpful and just want to help out. And there's a Facebook group that goes with this. So when the party's over here, you can just head on to the Facebook group, continue sharing what you're listening to. It's always fun to see what people are listening to, what they're sharing, their shacks, radios they use, videos. It's really, really cool. And always nice to have all of you posting over there. So today I've received this. I haven't tested much of it yet. This elderly radio. So I was so the story behind it is that I wanted to have so on Amazon they have compatible with Atari 2600, Commodore computer, and Amiga and all. They have joysticks that are very, very nice quality. Actually, I purchased one to test it, and I was so happy that I purchased 2 other joysticks so I can use them with those computers. Because as time goes by, at some point it's going to be hard to get and find compatible joysticks to play games on these machines. And while I was doing that, and of course Amazon knowing what I like, while I was doing that, of course it added, oh, by the way, you might be interested in this also. And of course this was this little AM/FM shortwave receiver by Reticus. So it's the Reticus TR614. It's a sub. It's in like the up $27, I think, is what I paid. So I saw it. I saw the price, and I said, "Well, okay, let's add that." And all of that came this morning. So an AM/FM receiver. It's when you look at the ad, of course, like I said, it's kind of funny because they talk about it as being a radio for the elderly. It is a shortwave radio that has, unfortunately, a weird range. It starts at 8 megahertz. I wish it would have started at least at 6, because it's kind of odd that it starts at 8 megahertz and goes all the way up to 18 megahertz. The only test that I did a little bit before the live show was to listen to the FM band and see if I can receive the VPR station from Vermont, which it did quite well. So the FM radio doesn't seem too bad. And medium wave seems to be good also, because I was listening to CFRA 580 from Ottawa. I heard the station in, Burlington, Vermont on 620 kilohertz. And so it seemed to be good on AM. Didn't really have a lot of tests on shortwave. I did get 1 or 2 stations. We'll be testing it a little more, of course, and doing a review of it. Going with the trend, powered by a 1650 lithium-ion battery rather than regular batteries. Once again, for such, for a radio that's so big and that has and seems to have a lot of empty space, they should have, we could have put 2 or a few AA batteries in here instead, because they're easy to find. But one thing that came, so the tuning at the top, which is kind of interesting because usually it's on the side. So the top with the needle, it's an analog DSP radio, because when you tune, you feel that there's that DSP chip in there, by the way that it actually has these steps when you tune. It's not a smooth tuning. That is a representation of that, DSP chip in here. The reason these things are so inexpensive is exactly that. They all use that silicon integrated radio chip, which probably costs, a couple of bucks for them to purchase. And they build a radio around it. So it's kind of interesting. And on the side here is the on, off, and volume button. There's a headphone jack that has stereo FM through it. And there's a charging port for the recharge of the battery. And there's a little light that tells you the battery's being charged. It's red when you're charging. It becomes white when it's fully charged. kind of light. One of the things I liked when I turned it on is the audio quality. Audio was surprising. So I don't know if I can just put some CJ8800 there. So this is CJ8800.
Head to the CJD Tactics Center with Jill Fitzgerald.
Losing up to half an hour on the Met eastbound from Decarie through the detour between the Laurentian Ottawa.
I don't know if you guys can hear, but this radio packs powerful audio and nice audio too. For a very small package, it's actually very, very nice in audio department. So, of course, more coming up on this little cheap Reticus receiver. Comes with, of course, the charging cable, comes with a little instruction manual. Pretty much all. It's very, very simple in the box and nothing extra, really. And, we're going to test that out and play around with that this weekend, tonight and this weekend. Post a few videos of shortwave reception on it. See what stations it picks up. So that's going to be another little radio to check out and see how it actually performs on the bands. So what do we have? The Vaults, nice to have you here from Latvia. Matt, MDK2, nice to have you on board from Denver, Colorado, where it's surprisingly warm. Here we're at we're in the 20s, something like that. It's rather cold this week, but we're going to have a warm spell. We should be we might reach the 50s for a couple of days this week. Rob, nice to have you here from Phoenix, Arizona. Bobby Burgess, WA5107 SWL from Morgan City, Louisiana, USA. Jerry DX, nice to have you on board. The Blind Picker, W0RAB, Robin, Connecticut. Nice to have you here, my friend. Graham, nice to have you on board from using the NRC the JRC 545 and the ICOM R75. So cool. Tom DXer, nice to have you here. WPE2QED from the Hudson Valley, New York. What do we have? Tarek, nice to have you on board from Cairo, Egypt. Always nice to have you here. Bonjour et bienvenue PLF Radio. J'espère que ça va bien dans ton coin du monde et que tout se passe de mieux en mieux. Ici, on est encore loin, mais on a l'espoir que la COVID, ça va s'améliorer avec la vaccination. Andrew Simpson, nice to have you here from England. Gerardo, nice to have you here from Michigan. Sal Marandola, nice to have you here from Pennsylvania. Salut Vince, j'espère que tu vas bien. Nice to have you here. René Charbonnier, the Dutch Pirate, nice to have you here from the Netherlands. Joe Tyson from Apex, North Carolina. KM4 WRQ. Keegan, Northwest Arkansas, nice to have you here. And pretty cool to have you on board as usual. 59 Fahrenheit over there. Not too bad. Gerardo, Voice of Greece coming in strong in Michigan, 9420. Let's check it out. Let's check that out. 9420. Usually comes in good here. AM mode. Yeah, it's a little noisy, but it's there. With some music. Handy Coley, nice to have you here. Artis Ali Croucher's Kitchen, nice to have you on board from Massachusetts. Just finished watching Transistor Radio Sensitivity Test. So interesting. It's always fun to watch. I when I don't know what to do sometimes, and I go to Netflix. I like movies, but I'm not. I'm the guy that if you want me to watch a movie, I need to be in the movie mode. If I'm not, I don't. I'm not going to spend 2 hours watching something. So sometimes I go on Netflix and it's like, yeah, that looks good, but I don't feel like being there for 2 hours and 15 minutes. And what I do usually is I go on YouTube and start searching for all these radio videos of all kind, and there's so much stuff to look at there, which is really cool. 45 unit, nice to have you on board from Florida. We have Skip Array, nice to have you here, Skip. Always nice to have you here. Saw your few posts today of reception of Saudi Arabia, which is cool. Michael Thompson, nice to have you on board. Good evening. Nice to have you here. Branson, nice to have you on board from the Czech Republic. Pretty cool. Michael Thompson is from New Jersey and to NLQ. Yeah, that's pretty much it for the time change. Arizona stays the same. Isn't there a Canadian province that also doesn't budge? Saskatchewan? Isn't Saskatchewan like staying put all the time? Vodka cranberry juice, guys. So, yeah, we are close to the A21 schedules. That should be arriving at the end of the month. Last Sunday. We're going to start the new schedules last Sunday of March. So, yep, there's a Europe and North America has a few weeks difference in the time change. Absolutely. Chuck CP Davis, nice to have you on board. Catalin, nice to have you on board, my friend. What else? So Keegan says the time on my Ethon Grading Edition Field BT radio and Ethon Elite Executives are set to UTC. That's the best way to do it. Michael Thompson is on 40 meters and 2 NLQ. If anybody wants to join him, let's just mention a frequency and people will be there. Skip says China Radio International on 13630, English soap opera, New Jersey, with SDR plate device and a dipole at 35 feet. Cool. That's I don't know if we're going to get it here. That is the transmission that comes from the Malahit transmitter site in almost nothing here. There's something weak in the noise, and that's it. It's incredible how we're far, but not that far in terms of the planet. It's still a big difference in reception. Cyberflyer 1, nice to have you on board from a cold England. What else do we have? Keegan says, when I upload radio reception videos of WWVH on my YouTube page, I post both local and UTC in the video description. I like the fact that a lot of people kind of don't understand. I post a video, and often I'll post the date. And you have to remember that UTC, if you follow UTC, when you pass 0 hours UTC, you're the next UTC day. But that also means that here in North America, you're probably still the day before. So sometimes I post a video and say, oh, I received Radio Romania at 01 UT, and I'll say March 7th. And everybody's like, well, we're March 6th. No, we're March 7th UTC. We're March 6th while listening here local, yes. And that's something you got to always remember. Hi, brother. Nice to have you here from Northeast Arkansas. Call Icon, nice to have you here. Says it's 5 o'clock somewhere. Yep, it is. Matt says, I totally understand why shortwave broadcast stations change their schedule with the time change, because ordinary listeners live in local time, not UTC. Stations have to conform to listener expectations. What else do we have? The Rock 80, nice to have you here. Jeff Williams, nice to have you here from Cornwall in the UK. Canadian Radio TV guy, Renew New Zealand on 13840 right now. Wow. I'm just going to try it out of curiosity, even though I'm sure I'm not going to get that here at this time. Nope. Nothing. It's too early for that here. But as summer comes in, it's going to be cool. Paul Steckler, nice to have you here. I'm looking at eventually purchasing a Belka, so we're going to see that eventually. For now, I purchased the Chinese version of the Malahit receiver, so that's going to be interesting to see. Lee Burkett, nice to have you on board. Been listening to amateur radios this week on SH Data D808 shortwave receiver last night. Heard relay on 80 meters. So cool. Fun to listen to amateur radio stations for sure. Keegan, yep, WVMT on 620. That's what I was I was listening to. Joe Turco, nice to have you here from Rochester, New York. Michael Thompson been dinging the RSPDX. Still need to get a handle on the HDR. RSPDX is really good. It's really a question of getting used to the software, because that's where the complexity of all of this is. Using that software that comes with it and understanding how to, start by doing the basic things with the software, and then of course having more advanced experience with it. Tarek says in Cairo, expecting 34 Celsius next Wednesday. Wow. Mobile armored strike command. Can anyone answer what degree is the same on the Celsius and Fahrenheit scale? Yes. We'll leave it at the chat room to do that. What else do we have? Mike Hanna 261. Nice to have you on board from Utah. Jean-Marc Litz, bonjour et bienvenue de Strasbourg. Nice to have you on board. Moving to a new flat on March 30th. We'll be busy preparing for the event. That's always a big thing, moving from one place to another. Thomas Lane, nice to have you here from Grand Rapids, Michigan. Skip Array has agrees loud and clear on 9420 in New Jersey. IT guy, nice to have you here from Los Angeles. So what I'm using currently, what you hear when I put the audio on, is the SDR Play RSPDX with the waterfall that you see here in the back. Been playing a lot with the Texan PL990X. This is, by the way, right here next to me. It's one of my go-to radios, quite a lot. So having a lot of fun with that. And with the multi-coupler, it's cool because all of these radios are all hooked to the MLA30 outdoor, which is really nice. VL, nice to have you on board from Brazil. Well, propagation isn't too bad today and yesterday, but this week, the week that just passed, propagation was subpar because there were a lot of geomagnetic storming going on. So propagation was not all the best this week. There's a lot of days. There was quite a few days where stations were weaker than general. North-south stations, they did fare pretty well. HCJB was like strong, like I've not seen it in a long time on 60-50 kilohertz. But the past week was really, really, really something. And we're going to what big video? Oh God. I'm not going to play that. Oh, man. What else do we have? I know one of the Canadian provinces doesn't change, Tom. Let me just quickly check it out here. Which Canadian provinces don't change time? So most of Saskatchewan. I was right. So Yukon, most of Saskatchewan. There's a few spots east of 63 degrees western longitude that don't change in Quebec, and some areas of British Columbia also. But most of Saskatchewan, so that's right. I remember Saskatchewan was one of them. I was pretty sure of that. So what else do we have? Yeah, it wasn't solar flares actually. It was more of fast solar wind coming from coronal holes more than anything else that made reception crappy. And the month of March, and actually when we are around the equinox, it is one of those times where it's easier for the solar wind to actually create geomagnetic storming. And that surely degrades propagation. Vlad, yo, nice to have you here. Somebody, VL is asking about Radio Cairo. I think it was on Glenn Hauser's World of Radio that I heard that somebody had received temporarily a weak signal from Radio Cairo, as if they were trying to fix the transmitters. So I don't know if they're trying to come back or not. But it's going to be interesting to see if they do. I hope they do, with good audio, not the way they were. I mean, that was sad because Radio Cairo's signal was there. It was often very good too, but boy, there was no audio or very distorted audio. It was almost useless. It was a waste of money more than anything else. But if they could fix that, that would be very, very nice. What else do we have? Trimbali and Bell says 13630 barely showing a carrier here near Portland, Oregon. Does anyone know what is on 4559? And I don't know. There are really no solar flares right now. There are a few sunspots that have shown up, but not. There's mostly solar wind coming our way. A pretty fast solar wind too. What else do we have? Let's go down. Joe Runnan, nice to have you here. Joe from Chicago area. Skipper Ray, ARRL International DX Contest SSB is on this weekend. Keep an ear out for rare operations from rare areas. That is always a good, a fun thing. Let's check out the hand bands, just out of curiosity. Let's see if let's see here. There's a few stations on the hand bands there on 20 meters. Let's take a few seconds to see what's there. Put ourselves in upper sideband, and let's check it out here.
Quebec, Charlie.
Fox Mike 5 Bravo Hotel. Isn't that Martinique? Fox Mike 5, I think, is Martinique. That's on 14298 upper sideband. 14298 upper sideband. Our friend here from Martinique. Let's check out 15 meters seems to be pretty quiet. 40 meters has tons of signals. Really a lot of stuff on 40 meters.
Whiskey 3, Japan, Lima.
CQ contest, Kilo 3, United America. Kilowatt 3, United America. CQDX, Kilo 3, United America. Kilowatt 3, United America. Florida 4 Golf Yankee Golf, 59 Virginia.
So quite a few stations. 40 meters is full of signals. 20 meters has a few signals, including that Martinique station. PLF radio. A bit complicated in France. Some departments are under surveillance until the state takes some decisions for the pandemic. Yeah, here we're still, Montreal is still in curfew after 8 p.m. We're going to stay like that for a while now. But at least vaccination is kind of getting faster now. So hopefully we might start having a more, let's say, a closer than normal, not yet normal, but a closer than to normal summer, and especially next fall, hopefully. PLF Radio says, I think some people forget at midnight the day changes. Yeah, it's because they don't have that reference. Also, the fact that the UTC time has to do with the day also in UTC, not relative to your local time. Keegan says in Arizona, the Navajo Nation observes DST while the rest of the states does not observe DST. Jim Gordon, nice to have you here. Had a pretty good reception today of Reach Beyond Australia on 11875, 1350 UT in Scotland. So on his Panasonic B65 using its telescopic aerial and a Sony AN71 wire aerial. Cool. I had an eye on that Panasonic B55 for a long time when it was out. I always thought it looked nice as a radio. And I always loved Panasonic. For me, Panasonic was one of those great brands. And still is, by the way, when you buy electronic stuff. What else do we have? Michael Thompson. So, Tremelli, Mr. Bell. I think there's a ham on 14.220.5 using LSB. Huh. Michael Thompson doing FT8 on 40 meters. Pavel. Nice to have you here. CO7WT from Cuba. Please try to tune the Cuban jammers active now at 7345, 9565. Yeah, where the Radio Marti is usually. If I tune them right now.
November Fox, Whiskey 4 November Fox,
Not a lot coming out. Radio Marti 9565. Not hearing the jammers really. Sometimes I hear them really strong here. VL says Sri Lanka broadcasting having an excellent reception in Brazil around 18 UT on 11750. Cool. That's nice. I haven't heard Sri Lanka. I haven't heard Sri Lanka in a long time. Long time. In here. Aguila, nice to have you here from Central Mexico. 14233 is not fax, it's slow scan television. Usually 14230 to 14233, 34 hams. That's the ham call frequencies for slow scan television. Amateur radio stations don't do fax. That's really slow scan TV. I use MMSSTV, which I like. Detects automatically the mode and works pretty cool in decoding too, for sure. Matt, he's hearing someone strong on 1428 working a pileup, but not hearing the station he's working. Yeah, you know that there's some good DX and some frequencies sometimes when there's a big pileup. You don't hear whoever that is on the other end, but you hear the big pileup on top, and you're like, that must be something interesting there. Sometimes what I'll do, I'll go on the cluster sites and look out, what could be on that frequency that people are trying to contact. Chaz Tank, nice to have you here from Louisville, Kentucky. Pretty cool to have you on board. Mobile Armored Strike Command, February 27th, made a contact with an operator who was broadcasting from Park on the Air, VE0503, Jacques Cartier, Gatineau Provincial Park. Oh, cool. First contact from Quebec. Congratulations. It's cool. Thomas Lane, isn't it amazing and funny to think that we think we are so intelligent we can get a longer day by turning our clocks ahead? Yeah, that's one. I remember when I was working 9-to-5 job, when we would actually put the clocks backwards 1 hour. I was like, woohoo, 1 more hour this weekend. And when we would go forward, then it was like, one less hour this weekend. What else do we have? Tarek says, latest I got from insider sources Radio Cairo that they are working on having a mobile app. Interesting. And no one will listen to that because every shortwave station that has gone on the web pretty much has no more listeners afterwards. So that's why some stations like Radio Prague and Radio Slovakia decided to use relays. Because when they went on the web, it's like, well, we lost our listeners. Nobody goes on the web to listen to these stations. It's people thinking that don't understand what radio is all about, especially shortwave stations. I have an internet radio here that is going to stop working at the end of April, and all I can say is the only thing I listened pretty much on that thing was either the BBC World Service, because that's worth listening to, or music. And that was pretty much it. 4 Alpha 7S. Interesting. David, KJ4CMY, nice to have you on board. No problem being late. Yes, absolutely. The call signs can be checked on QRZ, curious@cq.com. Absolutely. Mickey Dalmage, nice to have you here from Shorewood Park, Alberta, Canada. Randy, Riverside, California, nice to have you here. Skip just worked a special event station W4F on 7050.2 CW in New Jersey. And of course, Skip's call sign is N2EI. Cool. Paul Pelinkas, Kilowatt, the worst phony phonetic. It's what's interesting. What's interesting is the when you start listening to a lot of hams and they start using these phonetics that have no, that aren't the real ones, that aren't the official phonetic alphabet ones. It always is kind of funny. Canadian Radio TV guy, it's the ARRL SSB contest this weekend. Sirius Jean-Marie, nice to have you on board. Bienvenue du Nord de la France. Nice to have you here. What else do we have? Trembelling, Mr. Bale, has the Brown Services of Delivery figured out what they did wrong yet? No, actually, when I go back to the website, they have removed my my request for explanation. Let's put it like this. For some reason, I didn't see the truck. I know it was a truck. I didn't see the truck, but I'm really wondering if some UPS guy messed up and they asked him questions and he came back and secretly put the box there. It's so weird. So weird what happened. That I don't know. I don't know. Cool, Matt. Nolan, nice to have you here from Ireland. Today I received a cable that let me connect the G5 RV to the Texan PL 880. What a difference compared to the whip. Of course, getting an outdoor antenna is a big, big, big difference. Absolutely. Hey, Kimberly, K6YYL. Oh, I gotta do that video on your channel. I completely forgot. I will be working on that this week to share your channel with my viewers. I have kept everything, the email, everything. Sorry for taking such a long time. I'm doing too many things at the same time. So what happens is it makes me forget so many other things. Joe Turco, I'm interested in using the FT8 decoder app on my phone. What types of information is provided by FT8? So FT8 is a very short message mode. So what happens is that FT8 will typically give you mostly the time, the station call signs, and a signal report, and the difference between the main frequency. So FT8 has different spots, so you can be like 1500 kilohertz from the main frequency. So it's going to give you that detail. Typically, you just tune the FT8 frequency, and what you'll get is the most important, I think, for somebody that just decodes for fun, is knowing that there are call signs, amateur radio call signs in there. It's mostly that you will see. And so there's the ones that are easy. When they call CQ, that's the station you heard. And when there's two call signs in the display of the FT8 app, you always hear the second call sign. The first one is the station, the other station. It's kind of the courtesy thing. So stations that transmits always give their own call sign last, and kind of a polite way of doing things. So what you'll get there is mostly that, and you can use qrz.com or qrzcq.com and enter those call signs, and you'll know where they're located. So that gives you an idea of where the stations are from. Erica Trell, bonjour, hi, nice to have you on board from the Boston area. Not too windy today. And says good to see some of you at the Winterfest last weekend. And that passed so fast. So Winterfest last weekend, doing that Friday, Saturday, I tried to be in the hospitality suite as much as I can to help out if anybody wanted to get out and take some time off, especially Sheldon, that is, was there all the time. And you need to take a break at some point. So it definitely was so much fun, for sure. And by the way, congratulations on the on your CIDX column. KW1161, nice to have you on board from Tucson, Arizona. Skip. Old First Nation saying, only the government would believe that you could cut a foot off the top of a blanket, sew it to the bottom, and have a longer blanket. I like that. Do you have any opinion on the loop antenna Degen DE31MS, says VL? Absolutely. It's a worthless piece of crap. Don't waste your money on that thing. I understand why some people say it works, because that's the impression that I get. So I got two. People always say, well, you got a defective one. I got two. Okay. I had one and I didn't even remember that I had one, and I purchased a second one they both were exactly the same crap, that is a useless thing. And the only thing that makes it improve the signal is the fact that it's kind of acting like a wire antenna. So it's like hooking up a wire to, say, your window. It's going to improve reception, absolutely. But it's not because it's an active antenna. It's really a piece of crap in reality. It's like the Texan one. The Texan one is also to avoid because at the price that you're paying the Texan antenna, man, you're at the price of an MLA30, which is so much better. And you don't have to tune it, and it just works. And is a much better antenna to get, honestly. What else do we have? KW1161 says, since you have owned an Fedry SDR, what do you think about the new standalone model? So I can't talk too much about it. It does look nice. I've seen a few videos. I've read a few things on it. It seems to be an interesting one, but I can't really do much more than just kind of give my impression of what I've read and seen about it. Skip array N2EI November 2 electronics interceptor. Oh, God. Dave, nice to have you on board from the Turkish Republic of Northern Cyprus. IT guy, curious if you like talking on amateur radio or if you prefer listening only. Well, in my case, I'm waiting for my reply back to get my amateur license, which I don't have yet. But even though I will be talking, I will probably still prefer listening. And I know a lot of guys that are ham radio operators in the chat room prefer just listening than actually talking. VE2FGJ, nice to have you on board. Hams use alphabetic variations because Kilo Echo Tango Bravo. Now, one of the biggest problems is the pronunciation sometimes also and the audio modulation. And some of them, this is what I hate the most, some of them say it so fast that every time they say it is like, what? What is that? What? V2 what? Or not even. Sometimes you don't even have the start. It's like, okay, you just said it 40 times. I don't have a clue what the hell you're saying in your call sign. It's like, what the hell? Take the time to go slower. And, a lot of people are like, V2FGJ, what? Huh? What did you say? Especially when it's noisy. It's like, what? I didn't get that. It's just weird. So, probably everybody has come across a ham that you spend half an hour before it's like, okay, now I got your call, because one ham arrived and to make a contact and said, can you give your call slowly again? And that makes them react and change the way they say it. But boy, there are some of these hams out there. It's like, what the hell are you saying? I don't know what station that is. Dan, nice to have you on board from Ohio, N8WJZ. Yeah, I'm curious of that Chinese Malahit SDR. We're going to see. I'm going to have to check that, Eric. The new version of Fran plugin for SDR. No, it's really cool, guys. You should check that out because it displays the station names while you're tuning the bands. It's displaying the station's names on the SDR, which is really, really nice. What else do we have? Mobile Armored Strike Command FT8 is not meant to be full-blown QSO. It's meant for call sign exchange, grid locations, and brief report. And that pretty much limits exactly what it is. It gives the basic information to know where and what station it is, and that's it. AMLA 150 magnetic loop antenna, Michael Thompson, I think is a variation of the K180 WLA that I got here. It is a wider band loop antenna. I get people from time to time saying, so should I buy the K180 or should I buy an MLA 150? And one of the things that I always say is it depends on where you live. What I noticed with the K180 WLA here is that it's useless in my environment. That thing doesn't work here because it's okay on VHF. And the reason why is because I have too many strong FM stations. It overloads the amplifier of the antenna. So you end up with an antenna that just is crappy at shortwave. It really is bad. But by positioning it in a way where I can kind of lower the amount of FM station signal strength, I noticed that the overloading goes away. And when the overloading goes away, shortwave seems to be pretty nice. So I would say if you live close to some strong FM stations, you're taking a chance. If you live in a more rural environment where signals are not that strong, it might actually work really, really well. And I think there's a few of you that have the K180 WLA that live in a environment that's much better than I for overload capabilities and seem to have a great experience with it. So it's really, really a question of your environment. Here, it's one of the things that's for sure an important and nice thing is if you want to know if your device is going to overload on strong FM, here's the place to test it. Because here's the place where that is going to show immediately with the strength of all the FM stations. I see the antenna from Mont Royal here, and all the FM stations on top of there. And I believe there's a few left on top of the Olympic Stadium also. And these two spots are not very far from where I live. So I get blasted by FM stations here. Literally blasted. And so if a radio or antenna amplifier is not well designed to handle that, it immediately shows. Somebody told me, well, how come the MLA 30 seems to be okay while the K180 is not? I think it has to do with the fact that the MLA 30 is meant to be only for HF and medium wave. So it very, very quickly degrades as you go higher in frequency. So that means that once it's on the FM band, it actually doesn't work that well. And so all the stations are not strong enough to overload it. Where the K180 was designed to be a wider band antenna, like the AMLA 150, it's designed to be a wider band antenna. And those, probably because of better performance in receiving the VHF FM band, when it's really, really packing strong signals like here, that's where it goes wrong. RTM, nice to have you on board. Jeff King, nice to have you on board from Jacksonville, Florida. We have cool, Michael. Shouldn't be too much of a problem with the license with all the knowledge I already have. Eric Cottrell says, I mostly prefer listening on the ham bands, and I talk more on the VHF, UHF range. I was thinking of you, Eric, this morning. I took on my ICOM SDR30, was listening to, there's a Saturday morning Francophone net with stations on, it's a D-Star net. So I was listening to that on the D-Star repeater on 145.510 here in Montreal, and listening to stations from all over Europe and many parts of Quebec and North America that speak French. I came to my mind. I had not listened to it in a long time, and I woke up this morning with, and I when I looked at my icon, I was like, oh, it's the Francophone D-Starnet. I'm going to try that today. It's coming in quite well. Coming in quite well. What else do we have? Danny Shortwave and Radio DX. Nice to have you here from Yonkers, New York. MDK2 Matt says sometimes I jump into contests like today's because it won't result in a drawn out QSO. Thomas Olson, nice to have you here from Maryland. And back in the day when a ham friend W9KHO used kind-hearted ogre. I like that, kind-hearted ogre. Charity X got the Malahit and made the videos. Not everyone wants it. Eric Cachal says, thanks for the comments about CIDX. I'm Colin. I've gotten positive feedback so far. Oh, yeah. It's great, and it's a nice addition to the CIDX Messenger bulletin. Absolutely. Once again, for those that don't know what CIDX is all about, it's the Canadian International DX Club. They have a monthly bulletin called the Messenger. It's an electronic publication you get by email. Eric Cottrell has a ham column. Mickey Dalmage has the very interesting column. I have the utility column, and sometimes add a few other things. Like this month, I have a Texan PL330 review, and there's a lot more. It covers really everything radio. It isn't stuck at one aspect of what radio is all about. You should check out the bulletin if you haven't done so. What you could do is ask for a sample copy if you've never asked for one before. All you have to do is just send for this at cidxclub@yahoo.com. cidxclub@yahoo.com, and ask for a sample copy. And if you like it, it's pretty cheap, $10 a year, $25 3 years. You get a monthly publication that is really nice. I think it's one of the top-notch club publications out there, and it covers everything. Don't be fooled by the Canadian International DX Club. It's not just for Canadians. It's for everybody. And at the same time, you are part of a club. So that, means you're part of a gang of radio enthusiasts at the same time. So check it out. cidxclub@yahoo.com. Keegan, my dad, W9JEF, uses a sound recorder to listen to a fast call and CW to play back slower. Yeah, that's what I should do. I mean, some of them are like, what the hell? And Michael said, I just watched your video about that. Oh, man, I think I'm going to be overloaded. What else do we have? The VE3KRP, nice to have you here. Fast Eddie in Thunder Bay, Ontario. Christopher Cullen, nice to have you on board. We'll be testing the Texan PL990X with the MLA30 antenna. Should be in testing test watch. Cool. We'll have fun. It's a great radio, and the pair, the MLA30 with the radio, works great. I've done quite a few tests here. I've done a lot of videos. Pretty cool. BL says, yep, that DGen D31 looks really cheap. Was thinking about a magnetic loop antenna when money comes in. Yeah, you better jump to the MLA30. It's not that much more money, and at least you'll have something that works great. IT guy, mini hams 8FT8. I love it. No long drawn out QSOs and quickly changing. That's the FT8 has its audience for several reasons. That for sure. The thing about FT8 is that, if you don't like to talk, if you like to have very quick contacts that, with no conversations in between, if you want to make and have DX with a very standard station with no real high power amplifiers like some have. FT8 is great for that. I mean, it brings DX to people that have a hard time having DX in reality, for sure. I think those that it's there's always this feeling on amateur radio when you listen to these guys talking. There's that feeling of, well, the FT8 is killing amateur radio. No, it's not. First of all, if FT8 is popular and people are there, it's not killing amateur radio. It's amateur radio. It's modern amateur radio the way it is with new modes and new ways of doing it. That's all. So no, it doesn't kill amateur radio. I think a lot of there's nothing on the bands except 58. It has to do a lot also with the fact that, well, maybe if more people would spend some time calling CQ, you'd see that there are people that want to talk and have contacts, voice contacts or any other mode. And like I say, it's a way where it's easy to DX. Not every station has kilowatt amplifiers, Graham says K180WLA is great in Milton, works great. Yeah, you probably don't have the huge FM signals that I have here. That's why it works great. Malahit radio much better than the cheap text and crappy radios. Buy the Malahit instead. I'm not sure yet of that, but we'll see. I can't wait to see the one I have, which is the Chinese version. I do not have any intention of buying the original one from Russia. That's not interesting for me. I have other things I want to buy instead. That's for sure. But the Chinese is obviously a copy somewhat, and seems to have a lot of the parts and I've read enough as to know and have a very good idea of what I purchased. But there's also, I would say, 3 versions of the Malahit SDR, because there's the Russian one, which is the original one, which is apparently the best one with the original software and everything. And then you've got the Chinese one, but the Chinese one comes in 2 versions. So there's a low-priced Chinese version and a higher-priced Chinese version that is designed differently. And I've actually seen 2-3 videos where they compare the more expensive one, which has a lot more parts in it. What is mostly the complaint that I see on the expensive one from China is the fact that the licensing and the way that you can go to the real software is kind of clunky and weird. But I noticed that the ones that have the Chinese expensive one have a much better experience than the very cheap one. And that's why I jumped on the more expensive one. And we'll see when it arrives. Is it going to be good or not? What's going to be my impression? It's going to be part of the videos. I think a lot of people want to see that, and a lot of people want to know what it is like. And there's nothing better than here to know the exact reality of what it is like. If it works great, and I'll talk about it. If it's bad, I'll talk about it. And I took also another option on it. The seller that has that's sending me the Malahit as a 30-day money back guarantee, which I'm kind of open to using, and maybe then getting something else like a Belka or something, if it would be to a point where I'm not happy at all with it. We'll see how it performs, and I read all the comments of everybody on it. The ones that say it's crappy, stay away, you're wasting your money. And there's the other end. There's quite a few people that told me I got a Chinese one, I'm happy with it. So really depends a lot on very personal things. And no, I don't care that I bought a Chinese copy of the Russian one. That's the least thing that's bothering my mind, honestly. Because I got an email saying, well, how dare you buy something that's a copy of another? It's like, I don't care. Tomorrow morning I'd buy a copy of an ICOM radio just to test it out if it existed. That's all. It's the way it is. That's life, and that's the world we live in. And, probably the original is better, and that is totally possible. But you're not going to make me feel guilty and, well, you shouldn't buy a copy of blah, blah, blah. I don't care. And that has to be very clear. I don't care. Okay. What else do we have? Michael says, I have, yeah, you have your speech problems. So digital modes are awesome for that. Absolutely. And, that adds also, there's the other side of that also. I mean, speech problems, blind hams, like voice, like these things, hams that, there could be deaf hams that you will not be able to, speak to anyone, but you will be able to use digital modes and read on your screen. So there's an adaptation of amateur radio for whatever, disability you have. And that's the good thing. Digital modes are great for somebody that has speech problems or, and even if you're not disabled in any way, there are so many people out there that are extremely shy and don't want to talk. They just don't want to talk. They don't feel comfortable talking to somebody, So, Hector Vasquez, nice to have you here from Los Angeles, California. Yeah, I saw that review from N9EWO. He has a lot of very interesting reviews, by the way, of all sorts of things. He actually has a review that totally agrees with me that the ICOM SCR30 is crappy. Yeah, I even sent me an email once. He said, I saw your video talking about how crappy the R30 is. I totally agree. And, I'm not alone in thinking that. But then again, I think the R30 suffers from the same thing the K180 WLA suffers. The environment I live in is so difficult that the R30 isn't working well because of that. But move away, go into a place where signals are weaker, it probably works fine. And probably everybody that is happy with it are simply in a spot where, there's no strong signals to overload the radio. And it works great. That's the thing. But, imagine a guy like me. I need something that's solid, rock solid. So if I'd pay $1,000 Canadian, because that's the price in Canada of the R30, I would not be happy with that radio. I can tell you that. But somebody else that lives in a rural area, weaker signals, will spend that $1,000 and say, wow, this is a great little portable radio. It's really the environment around it that's making it crappy. And I wish they would have taken off some of the features and improved the front end with that money instead to make it a better receiver in the environment that I live in. That would have been a much better choice. I make videos, everybody's like, well, remove that attenuator. No, you have no idea. If I remove the attenuator, that thing doesn't receive at all anymore. At all. So, I know what I'm doing. Don't tell me not to do this or that. I totally know what I'm doing, especially here with the strong FM signals around me. Kamagzi 76, nice to have you on board from West Michigan. And yeah, you should get YouTube notifications in the browser. You have to get them from the browser itself. If you're on Google Chrome, you have to click that notifications of Chrome itself, because YouTube stopped sending out notifications by email and by many different ways that it used to do before. David in Barcelona, EA3IEK, nice to have you on board. Hector Vasquez used T2 FD magnetic antenna by RF Systems, and it works very good for high noise environments. Cool. Magnetic antennas are good for noisy environments, that's for sure. That is totally for sure. Lee Burke is very impressed with the XH Data D808 battery. After recharging overnight, this almost gave 12 hours of usage. Really good. Yeah, it works great. That 18650 does give a decent performance. And imagine the ones that come with the Texan PL990X are even higher milliamp hour, and they're pretty amazing too. Larry Gilmore, nice to have you on board. Have there been any shortwave receivers with audible readout and keypad for the blind? So there are higher end radios that do, but in the portables, unfortunately, that's not something that is common. Most of the receivers that have audible readout are higher end. One of the receivers that does have that capability, if you listen to Shortwave, on Shortwave, it actually is not too bad. The famous ICOM ICR30 that I just talked about, that overloads easily. On Shortwave, it isn't too bad, and it actually includes the speech synthesizer that actually gives you frequency and mode. So the voice will tell you what frequency and mode you are on, and it has a keypad. So the radio is a little portable. It's a little expensive though. It gives you a few more possibilities. So there's, that's one of the things you could use. It's a decent shortwave radio. I can't say it's really the best shortwave radio out there, but it's a decent shortwave radio. I don't know what else, anybody have an idea of, a radio, shortwave radios that would have speech synthesis for the frequency readout? One thing that that you could do is use an SDR. Also, there is speech synthesis of with the computer if the computer is not too much of a problem for you to use. For example, when I plug in the AirSpy HF Plus, I downloaded a community package SDR Sharp software. When you start that, it has included turned on automatically speech synthesis for mode, frequency that you're tuned to, and so on. But that is more complex, requires the use of a computer. I don't know what else. We could be checking out with that. So the ICOM SCR30, I think, is compromised. It will let you listen to shortwave, has all the modes, and plus has the extra of being a VHF UHF radio. And it does include within the package speech synthesis. And I'm pretty sure there are maybe more advanced tabletop radios that have it. Anybody out there that would have an opinion on a radio that includes or easily have an add-on for speech? Bruce, what's your opinion on the flat RG6 coax jumpers to get signal through window or under the door rather than run the coax through a wall? I know a lot of people that seem to have be using that and are very happy with it. So it seems to work well, and it in an environment where you can't really put a coax through a wall, it's your best bet actually. Skip is getting Adventist World Radio on 11985. Let's check it out here. Do I get 11985 on here? Yep.
You dey tell God say no, leave me, I want to do this on my own. God dey tell us no. Which Titus come tell us? Titus chapter 3, from 3 to 5. Because make we show kindness to one another, so that our work go dey righteous, go dey good before God. Because
So
na
11985.
take save us. All of us dey for destroy us.
Adventist World Radio. And that is broadcast, I believe. And let me just check it out here to make sure I'm not saying anything wrong. 11985. It is broadcast from the Madagascar relay. So that's more than 13,000 kilometers away from here. It's pretty cool coming from Madagascar. Not too bad of a signal. James Johnson, nice to have you on board from a cold and rainy North Florida. WA4493 is WL. What else do we have? M1MBZ, nice to have you on board from the UK. Pretty cool. It's nice to have everybody here. Matt says there are always some people who, when they age, seem to develop the inability to accept change. Yeah, you know, there's one of the things that is also, and I remember that was a conversation back then when Morse code requirement was dropped from the amateur tests. You know, you could hear all those guys, well, you know, I did it when I was young, isn't that hard? And now they're going to, you know, dumb down amateur radio and blah, blah, blah. It's like, come on, guys. We have to go with the times. And, you know, how many times people are complaining that the hobby isn't what it is and the hobby is going away? Well, maybe looking at why and how we, you know, bring people to the hobby is. I'm sure those that complain about that are not the best to tell somebody, hey, you should be an amateur radio operator. No, and they're probably the ones that look at you and laugh because you're a CB or a shortwave listener. The other thing is, well, you know, if removing Morse code makes it easier, why not? One of the things that is interesting is a lot of amateur radio operators seem to go into the VHF, UHF, 2 meters and stuff like that, never reach the HF range. It doesn't seem to be where you got a hard time with that. Plus, look at how many licensed hams exist and how many are actually active. That, I think, also is a problem. Is, you know, there's all of these people that are AM radio operators, licensed AM radio operators that just never pick up the radio. There's a mix of all sorts of things. And I think in a time where we are in a complex time where we need to have people in the hobby, why not make it a little easier? I'm not talking about dumbing it down to a point where there's no knowledge. But what's wrong with making it a little easier so that it's less of a problem for hams to, or for people to become hams? You know, I'll give you a perfect example of how a simple thing can prevent you from being a ham. A couple of years ago, I wanted to, and I looked around. Montreal is a big city, and there's some amateur radio clubs around here. And the only way that it was to get the ham license was to go to these classes that were so far away from where I live. And you got to take into account, I'm a city guy that lives next to a metro station. I don't have a car, don't need a car. And if you put that ham license test and class far, you're losing that guy that might have been there. And a lot of times, and I actually had sent an email, remember, to one of the clubs saying, you know, don't have a car, can't reach. You're missing out on tons of people, all because you only think that, you know, everybody has a car because you guys live outside of the city. Maybe it'd be nice to have class at a central point, easy access in the city, where if you come by car, you'll be there. And if you don't have a car, you can go there easily. Then you're wondering why a lot of people are not becoming hams, including me, because you're just making it so complicated for me to reach a class at the other end of the, of the city, or outside the city often, like in Laval. It's like, no, I'm not going to go into the trouble of doing that. If you can't make it that it's easy for me to become a ham radio operator and get my license, I'm not going to run after that. I am now doing it. Why? Because it's going to be a virtual class. Makes it perfect for me, and probably makes it perfect for a lot of people too. So all of that is making it easier. So that's the way it should be. But if I look at that, just that little thing there, it's, yeah, but you're making it complicated for a guy like me to go to a class. I'm not going to do that. You got to remember one thing. At this time in 2021, it's not the user that needs to run after getting his amateur license. You got to reach the guy that wants to be a ham and do everything you can so that guy can actually, in the best, easiest way, get his ham license. As long as you don't go there, as long as you make it a tough thing to do, no wonder there's not that many hams that might want to be hams, because you're absolutely not thinking that you have to make it the easiest way possible. And it's, for a lot of people, not easy to actually go to the class. How many people live in rural areas? It's like, yeah, I got to go past that class, 40 miles away to get my ham license. Ain't going to happen. Ain't going to happen. You got to go get that guy. Not that guy has to go and reach for you. It's very important that amateur radio operators that want to have more people come into the hobby change their minding and say, we need to reach out and get the guys. Not the guys are coming to us saying, hey, how do I become an amateur license? Because that's the worst way of thinking. And a lot of hams think that way. Oh, well, if he wants to, he's going to be. I want to. I would have been probably already if it would have been a million times easier. If I could have just taken the subway, go to, in 20 minutes from here, I would have a class and have an exam. I probably would be a ham already from a long time ago, because it made it easy. Maybe we should think about that. Maybe ham clubs should think about, you got to reach out and get the people. Don't think it's the other way around, because that's not working. Got to make it easier. Virtual works fine. Why aren't all amateur class virtual, and that's it? Stop thinking we have to go somewhere. We'll do it with Zoom. Works great. And, there are ways to have your ham license online without having to, worry about people copying. There's that other side that I'll say about amateur radio also. A lot of people are like, yeah, but people are going to cheat. People are already cheating. It's a multiple question exam. That's cheating in a sense, because it's making it a million times easier to pass the same thing. If you have a good memory, just, go through the banks of questions all the time. You don't even have to actually. I am convinced that half of the new hams have no darn idea how electronics work, half of it, and how radios work, half of it. They just have a good memory, and they just went through the questions and they remember the answers. They don't know how it does work, though. So, it's already kind of cheating a little, but that's fine, because multiple questions make it easier to be a ham. It shows. I mean, look, I'm the guy that's not a ham, that when I listen to 2 meters, I have the impression of listening to ignorant people that have no idea how the radio work. I hear so much thing on 2 meter band that I'm like, are you kidding? You got your ham license and that you don't know that, a very simple thing. You might agree or not agree with what I'm going to say here. couple of months back, there was a ham that was cursing on a 40-meter band. I heard him very well because last summer, Iran in French was coming in really well in the evening here. It was one of my stations that I was listening to. And what happened is it was on 7230, I believe, kilohertz. This ham comes on, starts cursing and saying, hey, you with the music, leave the bands and blah, blah, blah. I will just tell you one thing. It should not be something, it should be common knowledge for any hams that do HF to understand that the 40-meter band is shared with international broadcasts. I have a hard time with hams not knowing that. And then thinking that they own the 40-meter band and that's, everybody else has to move away. How many times I've heard hams intentionally talk on the frequency of an international broadcaster because it's my band. I own it. You don't. First of all, no hams own any amateur bands. Okay, that has to be clear. They're frequencies, and they are. You have the privilege of using them, but tomorrow morning, the government can say, 20 meters dead. We're taking that frequency range and doing something else with it, and you'll have nothing to say and nothing you can do about it if it would be serious. So do not think that these are yours and you own them and nobody can touch that. That's not the thing. That's not the way it is. There are bands that are shared. Look at the 60-meter band, those few channels there on the 5 megahertz. They are shared. You are the second user. That means if the primary user is there, you have to shut up. And that's it. It's not yours. But we give you a privilege of using it. Well, same thing goes for 40 meters. And you need to know that. I'm sorry, as a ham, knowing that the 40-meter band is a shared band is a knowledge that has to be there, not something that I didn't even know. So, because for me, that makes amateur radio, when I see hams like that, for me, amateur radio is a joke in a certain way, because it's like, so you don't have that knowledge? Why are you on the HF bands? I'm sorry, I might be a little, I know it. I'm not a ham and I know it. And a lot of shortwave listeners actually know it. A ham should know it. That's it. When a station logs on, when one of the international broadcast stations logs on, you have to shut up and go to another frequency. Okay? Because you're not even helping out anyways. The one that was cursing, it was like, yeah, maybe that's why I know I'm not a ham radio yet. I don't want to talk with you, that's for sure. There are things like that we've got to understand. Kevin, nice to have you here. WS2H in New Jersey. Not in New Jersey, in South Carolina. Did I say no? New Jersey. That's it. No, it's Virginia. It's Virginia that I took you for the other day. You're in New Jersey. Is Morse code still required by the radio amateurs of Canada? No longer a requirement here. Also, we follow pretty much the same rules on the amateur radio. When the requirement was removed in the US, pretty much at the same time, there was the same thing in Canada. We kind of follow the same rules. Mobile Armored Command. Always call CQ, get limited response, however, on contest days. Look out, they come out of the woodwork. It's like when the bands are dead. And I say, it's funny, the bands are always dead, but when there's a contest, suddenly they're all open. What else do we have? You just go down, try to go a little faster because I kind of stopped and ranted a little bit at the. I got I purchased the Chinese, the expensive Chinese one, not the cheap one, because I had the difference. The difference was like, the cheap one was about something like $100. The more expensive one that is different is 150 or 160. So yeah, that's an interesting side, JRDX, an SDR that fits in your hand, that's for sure. Take care, Skip. It was nice to have you on board. Peter Gregory, I use digital almost exclusively because voice modes give me anxiety. I'm sure you're not alone. I'm sure a lot of people don't feel well talking to other people they don't know on the handbands. It's something that you have to think about, and that's where FT8 and that's where some digital modes are nice, because you might feel comfortable in a mode that you won't be if you have to talk, and that's totally understandable. Totally understandable. If I look at myself now, I would be the guy who would talk. If I would be a ham when I was 20 years old, I would have been the guy that didn't want to talk. That changed, but you're not alone. You're not alone, and Bob Pierrepont says the same thing. Bob says, I agree. I'm a shy guy. I prefer listening, and I'm sure there's a lot of hams out there that are like that. Canadian Radio TV guy, 20 meters is packed. Peter Gregory, sometimes I listen to nets and get so close to keying up, but I can never get the courage to actually speak. Yeah, there is a if the I was about to say something, but I read something else, and I just lost it. So, there's that courage that needs to be done sometimes, and it's hard sometimes. We're talking on the air to people we don't know. It's like feeling like you go in a room with people you don't know, and you'll have to, they'll force you to go into a room with people you don't know, and they're going to say, now you got to have a conversation with these people. I'm sure a lot of people are going to back out of that. It's not everybody that is like that. It's not everybody that pops in front of a camera, talks to people over the net, and answers questions on a chat room that's comfortable doing it. It's not for everybody, and that absolutely. So, oh yeah, Matt, the R30. If I turn the attenuator off, the R30 here doesn't receive anything anymore, pretty much. It's the signals are inversed. Is if I put the attenuator at level 1, my signals go up, because the radio, the fact that I put the radio a little deaf, increases the signals because the overload is less of a problem. It's crazy. Actually, on the VHF range, I did a video showing it, that I have to attenuate, and the more I attenuate up to a certain point, the signals go up, and then the attenuation starts kicking in and it goes back down. But turn off attenuation, no signals. So the R30 is a very bad radio in its front end, I can tell you that. I mean, my R20 isn't that great, but was better at dealing with that than the R30. And it's preventing a lot of weak signals to actually be received. Signals that I received on my Realistic Pro 43 that are just on the edge of the squelch, that are, in the noise because they're weak and far away. I cannot listen on an R30. And that for me means that's a $1,000 piece of crap. I'm sorry. Here in my environment, that's what it is. That's what it is. Rich, not shortwave, but medium wave AM, FM, CNG, and PRD 17 AM, FM, RDS portable radio, specially designed for the visually impaired. So, but I would guess our friend here might want to have shortwave on it. Yeah, Matt, the SDR Sharp, which has a speech synthesis plugin, but you need an AirSpy or TLSDR, absolutely. And you need to use a computer also, which is not for everybody. Robert Cross, nice to have you on board. Jerry DX, yep, the R30 does have speech synthesis. David says, I prefer single sideband as it enables me to interact with other operators in the most direct way by using speech. However, with FT8, I can maximize the reach of my power in antenna conditions. You know, there's different reasons to use different modes, and that definitely. Chris66, nice to have you here. Well, that's what I got, Vahid. The Malahit from China that's on eBay. That's what we'll be testing when I get it here in a few weeks. Going to be interesting to see, and I'll have a real opinion on it once I get it. Hector Vasquez is getting the Madagascar station on 11985 in Los Angeles. Cool. Michael Thompson, oh man, you're putting my ideas in my head. Might have to drill a small hole for RG316 so I can place my loop outside. Sometimes it's better to apologize and get permission. I remember a couple of years back when, a long time ago, maybe 10 years ago, when the cable guy came here. He went, well, more than that, it was 15 years ago, when I changed from DSL to cable internet. The guy came over here, and I told him where I wanted to have the modem. And it was far from the entry of the cable in the house. So for a moment there, he looked and said, do we drill a hole across? And I was waiting for him to take a decision, because my next thing was, how about I give you $40? Would you drill a hole for my antenna cables? But he looked and he said, you know what? We're going to use the hole that's already there. I don't feel like I want to drill a hole through this wall. And I totally understand why. You know, he wasn't comfortable in doing it. And he said, well, it should still work fine. We're just going to change the coax and put new coax to make sure that it's better. But if he would have started that hole, I tell you, I would have said, hey, $40, $50, give you $50. Drill a hole for my antenna at the same time next to it. Mobile Armored Strike Command back in 96. I took the technician test. You must have the novice test, then the tech test, passed both tests. But when it came to the Morse code test, the VC gave me the wrong test speed. Oh, man. Matt says, that's interesting about where they hold tests. There's a place that uses the regional Red Cross office for tests that's nearly downtown Denver. It would be easy to go there by bus. You know, that's the thing, is why don't you put these tests in a variety of easy places for people to do it? So Mobile Armored Strike says, I missed the Morse code test by 1 character because the wrong test was given to me at 20 words per minute, not 5. The VEC was an old-fashioned and would not place a weaver on the test. If they had, I'm sorry, but I would have gone nuts if they would have put the wrong speed, and especially if I'm so close, I would have raised hell and said, I want to have my license, and I'm sorry because you messed up, and I don't care. You messed up. Oh man, I would have gone berserk in that room. Chastang, one reason I did not join a local club, the members thought you had to have only I-and radios and do the exact same things they were doing. They laughed at folks experimenting. There's unfortunately a lot of old hams that aren't that great, and that you just don't want to. You just don't want to, you know, deal with them. Mobile Armor Strike Command. I never went to a class for amateur radio license. I downloaded a question pool and studied and took the test and passed. Yeah, here, because the way that they're doing it here is the same guys that pass the test are the ones that give the class. And if you don't take the class, they're not going to let you pass the test. Because if that would be the only thing, I would pass the test. I would pass the test without having to study. I did the online testing. I've always had like 85% and up in my answers, you know. Van Solo says, I've passed the practical test 3 times just for fun, but during the pandemic, testing has been impossible in my area. Now that FCC is charging a fee for license, I'm out. License-free bands still work. Yeah, here, you know, the license is lifetime, so you pay once and you got it for the rest of your life. David, KJ4CMY, sorry you guys have had problems with ham clubs. I have found just the opposite. It is nice to have virtual classes and exam. Yeah, it's, you know, it's crazy. Mobile Armor says, I just have a problem about virtual classes because after the class, who is going to monitor the test? But the thing is you can have a online class, and if you have a time limit, you can't really cheat. And with a time limit, cheating is almost impossible. You know, I know that, you know, some are a little wise ass and do all sorts of things. But make it easy. Make it easy to it's crazy, you know. I'm not going to buy your car, Jerry, to get an AM license. But there's ways to monitor. I mean, there are ways you can monitor somebody, even virtually. I would, you know, it's a Zoom. If you have a camera, you can ask for the camera to be positioned in a way that shows you're doing the exam. It's kind of difficult to cheat in some way, you know. But I know, and I understand the thing here. So, you know. Specs 357, 30% pass rate with multiple choice and no knowledge. 30%. That's still a high number of people that have no idea what they're doing, and that passed. Pretty crazy. Matt says, I was shocked by how many hams weren't shortwave listeners. Yeah, there is a quite a number of people that weren't shortwave listeners. I noticed a lot of the 2 meter guys, you know, the ones that are every night on those nets saying hi to everybody. A lot of them weren't shortwave listeners or anything. Some of them are CBers, but there's a certain number also that probably got in because they're like, oh, look, there's this thing called amateur radio and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, okay. Jerry says, hams think they own every band, even the frequency they talk on every day. They think they own that too. Yeah. You know, it does a lot of, there's a lot of stress going on. Look at the nets on 80 meters, 40 meters everywhere. Look at how many people go crazy because the net is on a frequency and that shouldn't be. I mean, there's enough spectrum to do everything. I remember there was a fight. Here we had one that was particular here. So there was a long time net on 3780 from the southern province of Quebec, and I think it's the official net for Raki, which is the amateur radio League of Quebec. That net, of course, is in French. And for a while, there was a battle because some northern states, U.S. guys in English were intentionally coming on the net on that frequency and not wanting to budge at all. And many times the net was they had to move the net to like 3782 or 83 but the guys on the net were like, this is crazy. Why do these guys absolutely want to have 3780? The net lasts an hour and a half. They could go to another frequency for now and they'll have 3780 a little later. But there's a lot of these tensions with nets and same thing. The guy that started cursing was going crazy over the signal of Iran. And what would happen? Just out of curiosity, guys, what would happen if, say, you guys in the U.S. And maybe some of you here in Canada can answer that. I'm not going to do it. I would not do that. But what if you record the spectrum? I would record that cursing ham on 7230 over Iran and send a complaint to the FCC saying, hey, that ham doesn't understand that this is a shared band. He cursed and he's just interfering with what I want to listen to. Would there be a consequence to somebody doing that? Just out of curiosity. I'm just curious to know if there would be some kind of consequence to somebody doing that. Mobile Armored Strike Command says he was a shortwave listener first, then amateur radio came after. A lot of people weren't shortwave listeners also, but came from CB. I know that a lot of CBers moved to amateur radio also. Geraldo, right on target on your ham radio test. They are so concerned about cheating and exams have to be proctored. Totally stupid and even insulting. Yeah. And I mean, it's a multiple choice question. Come on. The validity of how the knowledge isn't that great also. And I see it all the time in a 2-meter band. It's even on the HF bands. I hear hams saying something and I'm like, whoa. And you are on HF. Okay. You don't know what you're talking about. I mean, there are super experienced guys. There are guys you listen to and they are like, out there with their knowledge. But there's people with no knowledge that are AMs. Pretty crazy. Chask Tank found a club, but it was too far away to visit on a regular basis. Great group of folks. Happy to assist with you with questions and answers, give suggestions. Of course, there's a lot of hams that are great guys and that are definitely there to help out and will be great. And we don't have to put everybody in the same boat. There's the grumpy hams that think shortwave listeners are just stupid, and there's the regular. There's a lot of good hams that are just like super happy. I've met that side of hams every time I met hams. The ones that are kind of nice in general. Every time there was events where I met amateur radio operators. But there's grumpy hams that are gonna treat you like trash because you're a CB or a shortwave listener, thinking that you're I'd like to have one of those hams tell me that I'm an idiot that has no radio knowledge. Yeah, go watch my channel. He'll come back and tell me that I have no knowledge. BXRPL, nice to have you here from Poland. Jetcrafter, nice to have you on board. Joining late today. Still waiting for the Malahit 30, which is supposed to arrive on February 24th. 10 days beyond due date, shipped from California. Oh, well. I guess I need patience. That's the sad thing about shipping. When you buy stuff, I'm waiting for a box. So give like short story. I participated in an event with a group, and I got a subscription to one of those candy boxes every month. So I got the first one last month. This month, it's always the first of the month that they ship it, the first or second of the month. So we are March 6th. They shipped it on March 2nd, which was Tuesday. Check Canada Post. It comes from Ontario, Canada. Okay. Checked Canada Post on Tuesday. On Wednesday. Wednesday says, "Oh, it's going to be here Thursday by the end of the day." Okay, cool. 2 days. Thursday. I look, and it doesn't say out for delivery. It just said transit. And it says, "Oh, today by the end of the day." Okay. Usually it says for delivery when that happens. So I was kind of knowing that it was not going to be there that day. Friday. Oh, it's going to be here Monday. Okay. I look today, and today it says, "Oh, it's going to be there Tuesday." So what the hell are you doing with the package? Playing what? You put it in a corner and say, "Oh, next time." Doesn't matter. When I see that, it's like your tracking is a joke. And honestly, you know what? We should be allowed to sue the companies that say it's going to be there today and it doesn't come, and you waited for it, and spend time at home doing something because you were waiting for the package. They should be liable for that kind of thing. You know what? If you can't deliver it on that day, don't say it's that day. Just say it's another day. I'm so tired of these companies. Lately, UPS and all these companies, yeah. And like I say, we're 1 year into the pandemic now. Come on. Stop giving me that COVID bashing crap. Oh, because of the pandemic, it's like, hey, it's a year now. Okay, you got used to it. Okay, please stop saying anything baloney. Laura Robertson, nice to have you here. K04DFJ, nice to have you on board. Lonnie Surti, nice to have you here from Colorado. We have Lonnie is KC0ZKA, pretty cool. Paul, any opinions on the Stereo SD 1300 U25 to 1300 megahertz discount, 1.3 gigahertz discount? Just got one, not installed yet. It is built like a tank, going to use a chimney mount. I don't know that specific model, but discounts in general perform well. So I guess it should be pretty good. Christian Marcoux, salut. Et bienvenue, Christian. And I prefer listening, spying than talking. I have a realistic Pro 26 scanner. I owned that Pro 26 scanner for a while back in the 90s. I had one of those for a while. Agoraphobic Adam. Some frequencies have nice folks, and some have complete idiots. I just find another frequency. Oh yeah, absolutely. Amateur radio reflects the society. It's when I started doing my tech duties, same thing. I went to this little couple. They were like let's be perfect. They were religious. They were, they had a little family, and they were the truly we want to be perfect and nice with everything. And when they got internet, they found my number for tech duties. Or I think a friend of them gave them number. And when I got there, they were saying, don't you think there's a lot of bad things on the internet and it's dangerous? And the only thing I said is the internet does not have more bad things than regular society. It's just it just reflects what society is. There's the same amount of bad things, the same amount of good things, and the all in the middle things. It's just a reflection of who we are. The impression is because I think we focus too much on the bad things and don't focus enough on the good things. You know, yeah, man. Instead of buying a car, I could buy 15 radios. The guy's got a wall of transceivers. Oh, you got a lot of money. I don't own a car. that you got to think about. Oh, the buses here are very empty with the pandemic here. It's really, really something. Really, really something. Trucker Daddy, aka John in Quebec. Nice to have you on board. Can you? Directly to Services Canada? I need to check that out. Because you know what? I would actually go directly to Services Canada and have a test. Honestly. Especially if they can do it here in town with an easy way to do it. I need to get information on that. That would, you know what? I wouldn't even go to the test, to the course. I would just... There's a side of the course I think is important. My friend, the Fastload that's in the chat room, took his a couple of years now ago. And he was happy actually to have the course because he said, well, I did learn quite a few things with the course that I didn't know. And I'm sure there are things that that I would learn in an amateur course. I'm not a wise ass that knows everything. I'm sure there are parts of the amateur radio operations and things that I need to have somebody, a course would probably be nice. But that said, with my knowledge, I already would probably pass easily without having any amateur radio course. I need to check that out. The thing is, we can complain about the tests a lot. I mean, we can complain about the tests. We can complain about the tests. If they would be done virtually, we can complain about the tests in many ways. Once again, let's go back to the first thing that I said earlier is that we want to have an easy way of getting people into the hobby, and making it too complicated is not necessarily a good thing. That's not what we want, It's just that, we have a minimum requirement. I think everybody has one. And I think, you guys that are hams, I'm sure that you all have a varying degree of the minimum acceptable for ham operation. I'm sure all of you, like I have done, have come across hams that you listen and you're like, whoa, you got your license and don't know that. That shouldn't be. At the same time, you don't want to have, people that work at NASA taking ham tests, So what happening in your life? Well, I got my ham license, so I can go on the International Space Station now. That's not what you want, I think it's we want to have it as easy as possible, but we want to have people that have a minimum of knowledge of radio also and electronics, understand what you're using. I think it's important to understand what you're using, how it works at a minimum, because that's what amateur radio is all about. At its most basic form, it's guys that should have enough knowledge of radio to operate something and understand the basic principles of how it works. Then you go on 2 meters and you're like, yo, you have the basic principles of you have no idea. That's where, let's go back to the test. Oh, well, virtually they can cheat. Yeah, but at the same time, that guy on 2 meters that doesn't know that, he passed it because he just has a good memory and memorized all the question pool and answers, and you know, da 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 da. Here it goes, and hey, I got 85%, but I don't understand a thing. That's also a problem. It's like if there would be exams that you have to explain stuff. Okay, now that gets interesting, but now then you get more amateur operators that know a lot more, but we would have less hands on the airwaves. We would have a lot less amateur radar operators than we do actually right now. And so, David KJ4CMY says, I was on 80 meter this morning. Someone was on our usual frequency. We just moved. Yeah, it's not complicated. I mean, come on. But, I think we can, go crazy and not be happy with the particular way of doing it. But at the same time, there's no easy way to really do all of this. And it comes down to how many people you want to have in an amateur hobby also. Agoraphobic Adam says 1 to 2 meter frequency, it never fails. Someone will keep up in the middle of a conversation like they own the frequency. That's all right. There's many more 2 meter areas to talk. Yeah, and there's so much stuff. Sergio Cordero, buenas tardes. ¿Cómo está? Cut off the tip and ring of a headphone 3.5 cable jack, letting only the sleeve and insert it in my radio, and it decreased the noise. I'm happy. Cool. Matt says there would likely would be no consequence to that. They would have to do it repeatedly to just notice they're not jamming another ham operator. Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious. Just out of curiosity, Trucker Daddy, the French guys on the repeater are quite polite to me and go out of their way to speak English to me even while I speak French. Oh yeah, I've listened to that net a few times. They seem to be very respectable guys that will be nice. But like in every hobby and everything, there are people out there that are go out on their way to just make sure that they annoy everybody else. Agoraphobic Adams started on CB radio, and Shortwave got licensed in September of 2020. Love it all. Cool. That is cool. Eric Cottrell, then you have to have the grumpy retired hams on 80 meters that talk about their medical problems. Yeah, absolutely. Jerry DX, Canada Post is slow. DHL is the worst. Yeah, Canada Post used to be so fast in the past, and now it's like, yeah. Joe Malone, first of all, the stock antenna is not to be used with that. If anybody uses the stock antenna with the Malahit, come on, that's not an antenna you want to use with that thing. You want to use an out there antenna that is going to plug to that thing. I'll plug my MLA 30 on that, which will be very different. Chimbali, Mr. Bale. I understand a package being 1 day late, but keep changing the delivery date over and over. Yeah, absolutely. Eric Cottrell says, I have a pipe-to-pipe mount that was in transit in Tennessee for over a week. Then it was out for delivery, and I got it a few days ago. Well, I don't know. It's crazy. Chimbali, Mr. Bell. How to have a bad day shortwave ham edition. Transmit in wide AM mode on 14074. Youch. Man. Yeah, there's so much, that is in there. Yeah. Oh, I'm sure there must be tons of at the same time to prepare properly for the exam and everything. But I'm gonna check that out if I can bypass. Chameli, Mr. Bell, I wonder if anyone has invented the dipole antenna hat for hams. Have 11-meter antenna mounted to a hat. Imagine hams walking around with that. Joe Malone says DMR questions to be added to the question pool. There's so much differences and so much new things that are happening in the hobby. These questions need to be updated really frequently, actually. Mickey Delmage, actually, anyone going into the International Space Station needs to have their license, or at least one Ember does. This is in case other communication fails, they can still contact the station. So you see, you get your ham license and you go to the International Space Station. Yeah, I read something about that, Mickey. I remember reading something about every astronaut that goes up there needs to have their ham license. Why not? I mean, it's, part of the knowledge. And I mean, they went to school so long to get there, and all the things they're learning. How complex can a ham license be for these guys? I mean, it's probably like, yeah, that's easy. I already understand half of it. Tremelli, Mr. Bell, I wonder if what's a boat anchor is in the ham licensing test. What's a boat anchor? Or isn't that one of those grumpy hams? We could call them boat anchors. Oh, it's the big radio. Sorry. William Hosland, nice to have you here from Wisconsin. KC9 TVN, Aussie. Anguilla says from 9 to 12.2 megahertz have got massive noise floor at home. Must be the Wi-Fi or wireless home phone. You probably have a device that the power supply, the switching power supply, leaks a lot of noise in that range. Mobile Armored Strike Command. Some are the requirements for you to know about a radio during the tests. Propagation modes, emissions, antenna designs, frequency bands, safety, power limits, broadcasting, KNA indices. I mean, I passed because here, our Radio Amateurs of Canada, you can go and pass the test. There's a random test online. And the lowest that I've scored was, I think, 82% once. Most of the time, I'm above 85%. And Nesla says, is there a risk to fry the MLA30 if hooked to a transceiver just for receiving? As long as you don't key up. If you're just receiving, no dangers. Never press that transmit button because you're going to fry that thing immediately. But just for receiving, there's no danger. No danger. RJDA Dakota, nice to have you here. Laura Robertson using a Unum for the Malahit. I'm using the stock antenna. So, Oh, okay. So that's the. I remember seeing. I probably saw that. I remember seeing something. Probably it's that video about a ham, a astronaut talking about passing their ham license. No problem, Lee. Always happy to be here. Simon Templar, nice to have you here. So Kevin gets the test poll questions are updated every 3 years or so. Okay, cool. John Brochetto, nice to have you on board from Pittsburgh. Loving the SH data D808. Is there any way to turn off AJC chuffing when manually tuning? Yeah, that soft muting, unfortunately, no. It is, I have to say. Yeah, a big dead radio, Paul Steckler. Or an old tube radio. But you know, I'd like to call grumpy hams boat anchors. You know, it makes you think of what you would like to do to these old grumpy hams. Use them as boat anchors. So, anyways, the AJC soft mute, unfortunately, in a manual tuning, you cannot change, which is sad because it can be annoying at times, absolutely, and unfortunately, nothing can be done about it. Paul is getting some signals on 6 meters. That must be harmonics. Local airport AM broadcast. Can I trust that this SSB signals I hear on the band U-loop antenna AirSpire HF Plus? If you're getting a lot of harmonics, you'll have to be careful what you hear in the 6 meter band. Maybe bring down or turn off the there's an amplifier that you can turn off in the SDR, or you can play around to kind of lower the sensitivity. Maybe you're set up too sensitive right now. What antenna are you using, just out of curiosity, to have all of that? I'd be curious to know what antenna you're using. I have tons of spurious signals on the AirSpy HF Plus also, but in the lower frequency ranges. It's not, they're not there in the higher frequencies. And yeah. Mark Cobb, WA5153SWL in Dallas, Texas. Nice to have you here. Call Icon, how can my atomic clock in New York pick up WWVB Fort Collins, Colorado without an antenna? It has an antenna. It has like an AM radio. It has a big ferrite loop inside it that receives the WWVB Fort Collins. And it's super tuned. So it's like really a very, very good matching 60 kilohertz receiver there with the antenna. So it does have an antenna, definitely. Every atomic clock that gets WWVB has a ferrite inside. Unfortunately, I don't know where it is. I had one atomic clock that was transparent, and I would have shown you. You could see the little loop. It looks like a medium wave loop in an AM radio. That's why also it's very directional. So if you take that clock, move it to another wall in a different direction, you might not synchronize the atomic clock anymore. It's possible you want to receive it because it might null out the atomic clock, the signal of the receiving. Yeah, pretty much, Simon Templar. I'm pretty much ready. I'm you know. William Houselon says the wife asked, "What do you old guys talk about all day?" I told her we like to brag about how long our antennas are. Well, I got a big antenna. Yeah. Oh, really? Okay. Kevin says, I will never be an NASA astronaut, but the privilege my license grants me to talk to one is quite special. Yeah. Yep. Joe Malone, the Malahit is small, and I want to walk with it. So I went for the Texan PL368. Enjoying the PL880 very much, thanks to your reviews. 368 is nice. We're going to have fun with the 368. Works great here. Van Solo says, getting a ham license isn't rocket science unless you're an astronaut. Canadian Radio TV guy, remember the video you posted when you were hearing NOAA weather band on 10 megahertz WWV? Oh, yeah, a long time ago. I don't know where that came from. It was not overload because that video, I believe, is on the ICOM ICRD 500, which does not overload at all. And there's no NOAA weather broadcast strong enough to do that here. We never really knew what that was. It was there for quite a few days before it disappeared. It was so weird to have the NOAA weather band on 10 megahertz WWV. So weird. It's kind of interesting to see all of that. So for those that weren't here earlier, just want to show you again. I got the today a little cheap radio, the Reticus TR614, another radio for the elderly, as they say. I like I said, I was purchasing some joysticks to play on the Counter 64 games and stuff on Amazon. And Amazon, knowing who you are, always tells you, maybe this will interest you. And it was that little Reticus. It's a radio for the elderly, apparently. And there's a beautiful old woman. And it seems like a little girl, like her daughter, I would say, that seems to have given her that radio as a gift. And she's so happy. And so they say it's, radio for the elderly because it's simple to use. So once again, I've got the I did receive WBPS Burlington on 107.9, so the FM seems to be sensitive. Of course, AM I've received CFR A from Ottawa, and 620 also station from Burlington, Vermont. Sound quality once again.
I was walking,
really good.
I crossed Finch, and actually I have no memory of anything after that until, I guess, several days later when
So sound quality is pretty good. And the only awkward thing about shortwave is that it starts at 8 megahertz, which is kind of weird. It should have started at 6. So anyways, I'll be doing some videos this week of that little cheap thing for those that want to see what that is all about. That's the bad thing. You see a radio and you got to buy it. Trucker Daddy says, nobody says CQ on a repeater net here in Quebec. I see it and it's like no one understands. CQ, what is that? What does that guy try to say? Man, it's a complex thing when we talk about, licensing and how to get your license and the knowledge people have. And at the same time, you can't make it too hard because you won't have enough people going and asking to get their hand license. And like I said earlier, you have to go out there and get the people, not have the people reach to you, because that's not going to happen. And, we're in 2021. And it's interesting because there's also that look of how many people that aren't in the hobby think that amateur radio is something useless today, because they're all in the impression that with the internet and our smartphones and everything, why would you want to be a amateur radio operator? And you try to explain to them, well, you have no idea what amateur radio operators do, actually. In times of emergency, they can save your life, literally, because they're trained to have the capabilities of transmitting and being on the air. If even if there's some even when nobody else can transmit. And we here the last time we had a really good take at this was 1998 ice storm. Thanks to amateur radio, communications were able to go on in the areas that were hard hit. Everything else stopped working. But I think the general population has too much an impression that amateur radio is just CB, and that we're kids playing with radios and that's it. And that has to change. There has to be a better way of communicating what amateur radio is all about, to give or tell everybody and explain in a simple way that amateur radio is much more. It's not just, it's not CB radio. It's much more than that, and you got to give examples of why it's much more than that. So you got to give examples of when you're in a emergency, moment that amateur radio can kick in and help out in what's happening around you, and like I said, it can save your life. But it's a hard thing, people have their fixed ideas of what that's all about. A great example, my brother, which never really enjoyed the hobby or never liked the hobby. For him, I was listening to noise, but for him, it's an even more mysterious thing that in 2021 people still do that. There's kind of no understanding of what why people would still do that with the internet now and everything. How many of you guys have heard, oh, well, why do you do amateur radio or why you listen to shortwave? You can now have the world on the internet. Yeah, but you can't explain to somebody why when they tell you it like that, because for them it's already the impression that there's nothing that is of interest on radio or amateur radio, and they don't understand. It's difficult to tell anybody the what we feel as listening to a signal from far away on the radio. I think it's you're amazed or you're not, and if you're not, there's no way that you're going to bring that person to the hobby, whether it's amateur radio or shortwave. And if they are, then you have a chance of bringing that person to the hobby. What amazed us when I turned on the radio the first time and listened to BBC, or I remember Call Israel the first night, was the amazement of, I'm listening to this station that is actually broadcasting from so far away. This is so cool. But that is very unique. Why are we amazed at that? And another category of people is not. It's we could be amazed at the internet. I mean, it is amazing the way it works. I mean, it's amazing that a guy with very modest equipment in Canada is doing a live show that you guys are watching all over the world. And there's something to be amazed at that too, but it's different. It's not radio. It's a different thing. Although it is radio, if you guys are watching this with a wireless router or whatever, well, there's a radio side to it. You're seeing what's happening here, but there's still a radio side to it. Sheldon Harvey, nice to have you here from Greenfield Park, Quebec. Jerry, Pirate on 6933. Let's check that out. 6933. Not really getting anything on 6933. Look at that 40-meter band full of signals with that contest. That's the 40-meter band here. That's a signal with the contest going on. So that's the stuff there. James Johnson. So Paul says, I was new on 2 meters one night. Heard some DX 10 years back and called CQ and was promptly told the rules. James Johnson, having even just CB in a state where events happen with storms, at least I can still reach out when cell goes down, and even the repeaters, my antenna can go up and down and I stay informed. Absolutely. I mean, even a modest CB radio can do a lot. Absolutely. It's crazy. Carl Icon says, I have a shortwave radio with analog tuning. There's something about analog tuning that is fun every once in a while. Like you can tune in signals that are between frequencies, but I hate thumb wheels. Yeah, we all have our side of what we like in the radio. That's for sure. That is for sure. As the song goes, invisible airwaves crackle with life. Aerial imaging, nice to have you here. Yeah, Trucker Daddy, you remember the ice storm. It's crazy. Keegan says, if the power is out and our internet service goes down, shortwave radio is the only way to go. Absolutely. Especially for, international news. It's really something, Cool, Paul. You'll be safe while we still are in danger. I'm not. I won't be eligible for that for a long time still. But maybe sooner than I think. I don't know. Since I'm taking care of a friend that has a lot of problems, health problems. Maybe because I'm helping out, maybe I'll be able to be getting that vaccine faster. So, hey guys, RJ88 Dakota radio is magical because you can bounce a wave off the atmosphere and have it come back down thousands of kilometers away. People don't believe in magic anymore, but it's all around us. Absolutely. Yeah, Erica Traw with the Hydro-Quebec briefings during the ice storm. Absolutely. I think we'll have some visit here. Let's see if I can move this. I don't know if he's going to come. Here we go. Come on. Oh, wait. Ready. Get that. There we go. Here's Mr. Paul the Cat for your enjoyment. Paul the Cat saying hello to everybody. And nice to have him on camera for you guys. So Keegan says, I listened to Shortwave during a power outage from January 27th to February 2nd, 2009 here in Northwest Arkansas due to an ice storm. And aerial imaging, with the internet becoming more and more regulated and censored, it'll actually be shortwave that many may remain as a remaining conduit for free information. Absolutely. So Paul the Cat saying hello to everybody. Little kitty, or big kitty, actually. So, says Canadian Radio TV guy, hey guys, he's going to end the stream. Yeah, we're close to that. A little tired, and take it easy. We'll be doing some radio stuff. But Paul came in, so of course wanted to have Paul say hello to all of you for a little bit. But yeah. Eric says, is Paul the Cat still mad at you for having another cat, or does he not care like other cats? He's not mad at me for it, but he doesn't like the fact that the other cat's there. When the stray cat comes in, this is it's a state of war. And Paul the Cat, as long as she stays away from him, he's like, he just looks. But if she gets close, she risks having Mr. Paul give her a few hits with his paws. But it isn't too bad in general. What I've noticed that they do most is that they're each in their rooms. So one will be in a room, one the other one. Or if I'm going to bed, what's going to happen is that they're going to Paul is going to come and sleep in the bed with me, while the stray cat's going to sleep in the living room alone. So Tom the Xer, have to feed the cats and then cook some pasta. So cool. And so, hey guys, we're gonna say goodbye for today. 2 hours and 34 minutes. We'll be taking a little break, and hope that you enjoy the show today. will be probably in the Facebook group later today. And whatever I hear, if I get some interesting stations, listen to that contest, that single sideband contest, ARL. You might hear a lot of really cool stations on the bands, 40 meters and 80 meters and 20 meters and so on. It's going on until tomorrow, so you need to check that out. And you'll be amazed at countries that you don't hear on the bands usually, and have fun listening to the contests. Contests are nice times for hearing countries you don't hear most of the times. So take care, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the show today. We'll be back, of course, Wednesday at 7 p.m. And that's 0 hours Universal Time. Wow, something sticky here, Mr. Paul's. So take care, everyone, and stay safe. We're going to end Wednesday. Bali, Mr. Bell. Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 0 hours UTC. So let's go with the famous anthem of Moscow Nights. We say goodbye for today. Moscow Nights. So take care, everybody. Have a great rest of the weekend. Listen to the radio. And don't forget to tune the International Radio Report on CKUT 90.3 FM tomorrow at 15:30 UTC. You can stream the show, International Radio Report, on ckut.ca or use your favorite app. You can go to... oh, this is sticky. You have some sticky stuff here. And, of course, you can use your favorite app to get CKUT 90.3 FM streaming and listen to the International Radio Report. Tomorrow, Sunday, at 15:30 UTC. That's going to be a nice 30-minute show with Sheldon and me. Take care, everybody. Tony, a lot of I've seen quite a few that have changed that cable with other cables, but if it's for having some better reception or changing anything, it doesn't seem to change much, honestly.